When I think about the idea of hospitality, several images come to my mind. I think first about magazine spreads showing off Chip and Joanna Gaines' latest line of serving platters, lining a table filled with perfectly ripened fruits, decadent meals. I think also about the TV show from about a decade ago called Parenthood, where the camera pans out during the intro and you see the extended Braverman family sitting outside around a large, bustling table with those big ball-shaped lights hanging overhead. You don't even hear what they're saying, but you're led to believe that everyone there is having a meaningful conversation, enjoying themselves fully. Or I think about the Food Network. I think about Bobby Flay opening his lid to the smoker to reveal the perfectly smoked brisket that pairs well with a bottle of well-aged wine that he just happens to have open and sitting nearby. How do you think about the idea of hospitality? What comes to your mind? Hospitality was practiced long before we dreamed of taking trips to Magnolia Gardens in order to somehow absorb classy images of hospitality that we see on television. In the Bible, particularly in the New Testament stories, we hear about hospitality at every turn. There's the story of Jesus turning water into wine when there isn't any at a wedding. There's the story of the father who throws a party for his estranged son, even after this son has squandered everything and comes back empty-handed. There's the story when Jesus shares bread and wine with his disciples, even when they betray and deny him in the heated moments before he heads to the cross. So I want to wonder with you, if you call yourself a Christian, how could we as Christian people consider the ideas of hospitality that we read about in the Bible and put them into action in tangible and authentic ways in our homes, in our communities, or in our churches? And today I want to suggest that Jesus sets the groundwork for us to experience and to provide untamed hospitality. What could that even mean? Untamed hospitality. Well, if you're at all like me, preparing to host people at our house for dinner, let's say, has the potential to send our family into a tizzy. We have a lab, we have a dog, her name is Lena. We love her, but not everyone likes dogs or dog hair. So when we're getting ready for people, we have to vacuum it all up and keep her out of that space. We love to cook and to bake, but our son has allergies to shellfish, cashews, and pistachios. So we're sensitive to other people's food allergies. We have to be conscientious about what other people bring into our kitchen to share with us. We look at our fine china from boutiques, the ones called Target and IKEA. And even though it works fine for us every normal night of the week, we start to wonder, we question, should we have sprung for that nicer stuff that Chip and Joanna were marketing to us in those commercials? I think there's a part of all of us that is easily swayed by market variety hospitality. By hospitality that with a few more bucks we could buy our way into. I mean, look at all the beautiful food posts on Instagram. Isn't being a host always supposed to be easy and look beautiful? In the book of Luke, chapter 10 ends with a story about hospitality. Jesus is traveling with his disciples and he stops at someone's home. We read that a woman named Martha opened her home to Jesus, and we can assume that this meant she prepared for his arrival. Similar to dinner parties today, if you knew someone was coming in those ancient times, you would have spent a significant amount of time preparing for that person. In the book of John in the Bible, we read that Jesus was friends with Mary, Martha, and their brother Lazarus. So perhaps this was a repeat stop, a time off the dusty trail with friends whom Jesus loved. The passage in Luke continues that she, Martha, had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." Martha is mad. She doesn't understand why her sister would simply sit and listen rather than do what needed to be done to provide Jesus with top-notch hospitality. "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Or indeed, only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." In this story, Martha is sometimes depicted as the busybody host, and Mary as the inquisitive one. And rather than spend time wondering if you're a Mary or you're a Martha, I think the story reminds us to look at the whole situation, to look at both women. For those of us with Martha's busybody tendencies, we do need to remember that hospitality isn't something we should accomplish or perform. Jesus was happy to be in their home, even if the meal wasn't prepared in a picture-perfect way. We can also be inspired by Mary's intentional posture of listening to the guest, of learning from Jesus. And maybe at that moment, as Jesus was getting closer to Jerusalem, where he'd faced challenges from the authorities and ultimately from ordinary people, maybe that was what was better at that time. But it doesn't mean that Martha's eye toward hospitality was somehow wrong. Maybe she just needed a little more untamed moments in her approach. If we think about our hospitality, maybe in our homes, we could be a little less worried about comparing ourselves to a Hollywood set. And when it comes to hospitality in a church, if you go to one, maybe we could be a little less focused on things like making people think they have to wear their Sunday best, or that kids should be seen but not heard. What could untamed hospitality look like for you? That doesn't mean it has to be unprepared, unfriendly, or unruly. But I wonder what it would look like if we had both Martha's eye toward preparing for a guest and Mary's eye toward being ready to see, to listen, and to welcome all of our guests with open arms. How might that change our postures toward hospitality?